Alright, today we're going to learn Parador, the title track off the new album. What is a Parador, you ask? It is a Spanish hotel. At least I believe that's what it is, which I hope that's accurate because I've got a lot riding on that currently. But anyways, it's 3 different chord progressions that are pretty much in the key of E-ish. And it sounds like this. Come in. I'm a man of simple trade, moving things others may, of modest ship and say, blown by the western gale. So that's kind of like the first part that repeats twice in most of them. So we're just going to kind of break down the chords and how to play them and stuff, right? So when I said it's in the key of E-ish, it would mean we're starting on the 6th chord. The relative minor of E is a C sharp, right? So the 4th fret on the A string. And it starts with a minor 7 chord voicing. I'm a sucker for these minor 7 chord voicings. So yeah, if you don't know this one, it's just like a bar chord voicing rooted on the A string with your pinky up. And then the important part of pretty much this entire thing is how it's played. And it's like this. So it would be like a bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what I'm doing is I'm hitting the root note first, the A string. And then I'm kind of getting 2 of my fingers are hitting the D, G, and B string. So it's like root, chord, and that one's a little bit longer. And then another mute. So root, chord, mute, and root, chord. Root, chord, mute, and root, chord, mute, chord. So that's the same thing for everyone, right? So we're going to go from a 6 to a 5 in E. E, F, G, A, B is a B, 2nd fret. But usually this is where a dominant 7 chord would be. But because I'm a little wild and crazy, we're making this a major 7, a B major 7 chord. So 2A, power chord, 4D. There's that major 7, the 3rd fret of the G string. And my pinky is on 4B, so same thing. So we've got C sharp, minor 7, to B major 7. I'm just going to walk this back 2 frets to an A major 7, which is the 4 chord. Then we're going to go to a G sharp minor 7, which is just 4E. Skip the A string, 4, 4, 4. So this would be a 3 in the key of E, G sharp. So basically we're kind of like descending. We're going from a 6 to a 5 to a 4 to a 3, back to 4, but we're doing a different chord voicing, right? And I'm doing this because it's a little bit closer, and I think it just sounds better to kind of switch chord voicings up a little bit to keep it interesting. So this A is going to be the 5th fret on the E string, and we're going to make this major 7 chord voicing. So it's 5E, skip the A string, 6 and 6 on D and G, and then back on 5 on the B string. And then after this, we're going to go back to the C sharp. So basically, I'll do it again. So from the C sharp to the B to the A, G sharp to the A, back to C sharp, D major 7, which again, this is kind of like I said, it's in the key of E-ish. Doesn't use all the notes, kind of borrows chords from other places. This is going to be that same major 7 voicing we used on the B, but we're going to go move it up a minor 3rd to a D. So 5, 7, 6, 7. And then end the progression on an A7, which we were just at an A major 7, and now we're making it an A dominant 7, which I think kind of gives it a cool sound. So this repeats a couple times. C sharp minor 7, B major 7, A major 7, G sharp minor 7, A major 7, C sharp minor 7, D major 7 to A7. All right, so that's always going to be the same for the verses. And then we have this kind of bridge, which is like a chromatic walk type thing that sounds like this. And that part is the under Spanish sky. Through 16 sailors she caught my eye and tempted me to come swing by me. Introduction. So again, we're starting on the 9th fret of the E string, which is a C sharp which is kind of the same root note as the 4th fret of the A string. But I wanted to kind of move here so I could get different chord voicings and play. And the chord voicing I chose for this one is a C sharp minor 6. So I've got 9, skip the A string, 8, D, 9, G, 9, B. Same pattern with your picking hand as the other ones. Now we're gonna walk back chromatically, which means one note at a time. So I'm going from the C sharp to a C. And when I was writing this, I wasn't thinking theory-wise at all. This is one of those things, 100% my ear led the way. I knew I wanted a chromatic descending thing, so I started where I started before. I knew I was gonna go to a C. I tried a bunch of chord voicings out. Should it be minor? Nah, I didn't like that major. Nah, I don't like that. Major 7, no, I don't like that. Half diminished, no, I don't know. Eventually I settled on a C major 6 chord, right? Totally underappreciated chord, as you've seen if you've seen the major 6 video, I did. But I've got 8, which is the C. I've got its major 6 right here. I'm skipping the A string again. So I'm on D7, then I'm back to 9, G, and 8, B. So we've got C sharp minor 6, C major 6. Kind of has a 6 thing going. And then we get to this B. Oh my God, what is this? It's a 13 chord. So we've got 9E, I'm gonna skip the A string, 9D, then I'm gonna kind of staircase, go 9D, 7. 7E, 7D, 8G, 9B. And I'm kind of getting the root E and then the chorus, right? And again, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I wanna use a 13 chord here. I was just cycling through chord progressions that I knew the shape of, and this one kind of fit, right? So I picked it. So we've got C minor 6, C major 6, B13, A major 7, which is kind of like, that 13 sets up the resolution for the major 7, in my opinion, right? So that's the first run of 4 chords. Then back to the C sharp minor 7 to G sharp minor 7 to the D major 7 to the A, which that D major 7 to A is the thing we saw earlier in the verse. And again, these progressions are just kind of, or these voicings are kind of tight in the same area, and it kind of just gives it like a playful type thing, right? So that's gonna be the bridge, and sometimes there are variations on that depending on what part of the song is. Like that's the full thing, like under Spanish sky, 316 sailors, she caught my eye and tempted me to come swing by and make an introduction. And then, like another time, it just goes from the C sharp to the C. We've all got a role to play. And then I stop there, and then there's like space for that part until we get to the chorus, right? So far, we've gotten a lot of chords. I said it was in the key of E. Where's our E chord at? I'm kind of purposefully avoiding it. And again, I wasn't doing this consciously, but the reason it hasn't really totally resolved yet is because we haven't used that one chord, the tonic, the E major chord. So when we finally get to it in the chorus, it just kind of seems right, I think. So the chorus, we'll call it the chorus. Sounds like this. So basically what I did there is I start with the E major. I guess what it's started. I swear I'd seen that face before. Was it in my dreams or the troubadour singing of a beauty born to heal the war-torn nation? So we've got an E major to a G sharp dominant 7 voicing. I'm really just getting 4 on the E string, skipping the A string, 4 on the D string, and 5 on the G string. So again, this would be we've seen this root note before in this song as a minor 7 chord, but now we're making it a dominant 7 to kind of give it more of like a bluesy maybe feel. I don't know if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, so this would be the 1, 2, the 3. We're gonna scoot that up a fret higher and then back. So just kind of making some movement in this area with this one chord voicing, right? From a G sharp 7 to an A7, back to G sharp. And then we go back to that C sharp minor 7, which we know and love so far. It's kind of like crushing it in the song. To the G sharp minor 7 to A. And where does this A major 7 lead us to? It leads us back to the 1, the tonic, right? The E major. But then the chorus isn't over yet, so it's like, where are you gonna go? So what you do, and you can do this in other songs have used this before, start the next progression on what's a really close relationship to the 1 is the 5. But as before, when you use it as a major 7 chord, now I'm choosing to use it as a dominant 7 chord to kind of give it a little more push, to kind of keep it going, right? So far, again, the beginning of the chorus is E to G sharp 7, to A7, back to G sharp 7, to C sharp minor, to A sharp minor 7, or G sharp minor 7, A major 7, to E. But before I switch to the 5, I make this a dominant 7 chord in and of itself, because we're just dominating the song right now, so everything is becoming a dominant 7 chord to the B7 finally. But really what this is doing is taking the place of the first E. So we're just going to go back to the G sharp 7, to the A7, to the G sharp 7, back to the C sharp. So you kind of see some of the patterns. And then we end it on a different E voicing. So kudos for you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking with it for this long, if you have indeed chosen to stick with it, because I think it's a cool lesson in just like learning chords and kind of like how you can throw them together even if they're not in the key. Maybe the relationship between some of the intervals and how you can use different extended chords on top of them and stuff like that, right? So again, once we replaced it with the B7, I went back to the original kind of loop of G sharp to A to G sharp, and then that same thing, the C sharp minor 7 to the G. And now when I'm coming from a C sharp minor 7, before I played it like this, again, this is like, remember, so the first time we talked about this G sharp minor 7 voicing, I went middle finger 4, skip the A string, 4, 4, 4. But now I'm coming from a C sharp minor instead of from where I was coming before. So it makes more sense for me to just bar the 4, skip 4, 4, 4. And since I can skip the A string because I'm not using my fingers there, right? So that's just kind of an example of how there's never one way to use like a fingering or whatever for a chord. It's whatever the proper fingering for a chord is in context of what's coming before it or what's after it. Like, just a regular G major chord, you might learn it like this, but it's just as fine if you play it like this. It just depends on where you're coming from afterwards, right? So again, so this C sharp minor 7 to this G sharp minor 7 to an A major 7. And the chord progression finally and mercifully ends on this E chord, which the root note E now is on the A string, 7th fret. It's major 3rd, and then it's octave. So I don't have the 5th in it. I'm kind of implying the 5th. But I wanted to end higher, like a higher voiced E, because if you end here on this E, it kind of feels like the song is over. But if you end here, it leads it back into that C sharp minor to start the whole thing over again. A little better in my opinion, right? Sometimes I kind of like inflect things and stuff like that too. But essentially that is the gist of the chord progression. And the only time it really changes is at the very, very end, the grand finale, so to speak. We're doing the same thing. So after the B7 to the G, to the A, to the G, did I go back to all the time? I guess that's the thing that kind of like repeats. So I changed it a little bit to kind of keep it going so it didn't resolve right away. C sharp minor 7 to the G sharp. A major 7, where we used to go to the E7, we're going to go to the B7 to kind of keep it going so I can repeat the did I go back to all the time? Yeah, I go back to all the time. And then when it's finally over, that's when you hit the open E chord. So that last part of the final chorus, or the chorus part. Again, just my thoughts on choruses. I don't think choruses necessarily have to repeat the same words. I like that the music repeats, but the words kind of change, because this is definitely like a storytelling song that, certain parts of it repeat. But again, it's just kind of like just one of my things that I use to write. I don't like repeating too much too often. Sometimes I will, but a lot of other bands have done that too. They use the musical part of the chorus, but it's not like a repetitive thing. The music is, but the lyrics aren't, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so the last part is just the C sharp to A, B7, and then the same thing, and end it. Cool. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is the electric guitar part. That kind of repeats through different verses, and I'm just going to do it on acoustic with the pick. But it's a muted thing that uses the E major scale. And I guess I can kind of use it as an example to make, like how you might want to make a riff that goes over something. And since we're doing it in the key of E, we've got this E major scale here. And if I start it with my middle finger on the 7th fret of the A string, I'm going to go 7, 9, 6, 7, 9, 6, 8, 9, right? So I can think of that as my major scale right there. Or what I could also think of that is I could take the 5th of this, which the 5th of E is a B, and you have that like mixolydian shape, which we're going to want to learn, or we're going to want to know some of the notes in between, or before the root note, because the whole thing sounds like this. And in the song, again, it's on electric and it's muted, so it sounds more like... And all I'm doing is I'm going through that major scale. I'm just playing within the major scale, finding the notes. And this is almost like a pentatonic thing. So I'm going 7, 9 down a string, 6, 9, 6 backwards, going forwards and then pivoting. And then again through one more and back. Backwards, back. Backwards through the scale before, which is from that kind of mixolydian part or whatever. So again, that's just the electric part riff that kind of goes over it. The second time through, we kind of go and climb a little. We kind of climb up a little bit more, slide into the next shape, and back. And the only different thing I'm doing is I'm taking in the other channel, like I think that's in the left channel and the right channel I recorded. I did the same thing but octave higher. So I don't want to, waste a lot of time talking about like every single note. If you're interested, I could make like a tab or something if you really want it. But basically the idea is just to take notes from the major scale. I'm not even thinking of the chords that are behind what I'm playing. I know I'm in E. I trust that I'm in the key of E. So I'm letting my ears lead the way once I get into this E major shape and everything kind of like around it. And to me, I think that's like, that's how I write riffs and like lead parts and stuff. I'll just kind of like get in an area where I feel comfortable, and then I'll just let like my ears kind of guide my hand through a shape a lot of the time. Now maybe other times I'll be more thoughtfully kind of following the chords, but this is just an example of where I know I'm in the key of E. I've got this E thing going, so I'm just kind of jamming it and trying to make something cool.